An EA knows what they're doing, and someone that you can hire can take that work off your plate, and you can set up really nice work rules and standard operating procedures. Invest in collaborative software that facilitates remote work. Perfect segue, buy a project management software. Survey your existing team. Find out what their sore points are around working in your firm.
It's the Accounting Talent Podcast. We're talking about all things talent in the accounting world. My co-host, Jeff Phillips, is with me, and we're asking the question, you've just lost somebody. It happens all the time. Maybe it's a really key member of staff. In the last episode, we talked about what you do in that first 30, 60 days when your pants are on fire. This time, we're getting a little bit more strategic. Jeff, how do we stop this kind of thing from happening? What's your best advice?
My best advice is you probably can't stop it from happening again, but you can set yourself up to make this less of a crisis the next time it does happen. We are going to lose people. We know that. You can decrease that number, but it's going to happen again to you. It's a frustrating part of being in the accounting business, Rob. But with the right systems, you can make this easier for you every time this happens.
And we gave some advice last time, a plan, if you like, that was perhaps more for the small and mid-sized firms, owner-managed firms. If you've got a big firm, if you've got in-house recruiters or a recruitment firm at your disposal, on tap, if you like, to find stuff for you. But that's still difficult, isn't it, Jeff? Those people are still going to go through the same process that we're talking about.
They are. And so it's important to have some basics in place, no matter what size business you're running, to be able to bring in people predictably and reliably. And I worry about firms that lose people because I know it's happening, but I know that we can slow down and think about, all right, well, how can we prevent this from being such a crisis the next time we're presented with this challenge?
If we look at some kind of long-term plan, we can think strategically, what can we do next? We've got a time frame here for long-term, 90 days and beyond. We want to mitigate things like this happening again. So ultimately, what is the problem we're solving here, Jeff?
Yeah, the problem is, what do I do the next time somebody leaves so that we can fill that slot, possibly with a better resource than we had before? And it's a small puzzle to solve, not a major fire that's going to cause me as the owner lots and lots of pain.
You spoke to some firms recently that have had this problem, Jeff, and that's what set up this two-part episode, didn't it? Because I know it really got you thinking about the plan of attack. And just to summarize what we talked about in the last episode, Jeff, where were we?
I've talked to this summer. We're recording this episode in the summer of 2024. And just in the last few weeks, I've been in a lot of meetings with firm owners who have said, I lost a few people during busy season, or I just lost a tax person after busy season, or I lost an accounting person and I'm doing all the accounting work now. And it just got me thinking, Rob, like this podcast is great because we're providing people with the essentials to how to set up a good talent program. But what do you do when you're in that crisis? And I wanted to put a resource out there that was helpful to any firm leader that has an empty job. And so the first 30 days are essential. And my advice is to step back, do an exit interview with the person that's leaving, non-negotiable. Improve the business from their experience. They have nothing to lose. Yes, they left for a reason. It's probably either financial or time. It's either I got an opportunity for more money, or I got an opportunity that takes me less time to do the job. So learn from it. Step 2, have an organizational chart inside your business. Every organizational chart is divided into 3 lanes. Goes and gets work, completes work, gets paid to do the work. From Microsoft on down to the smallest accounting firm, even if you're one-person shop, it's good to have an org chart because it sees where you need to be spending your time running this business and making it successful. Third is see if there's an opportunity to top grade the position. Was it an accountant doer, and you might need an accountant leader / doer, a player manager in that role? Is there just a way you could level up the skills of the person you want next? Because you're going to learn from your failed hire. So maybe there's an opportunity to get a better hire the next time. Fourth, you're going to promote this position. Use your employees. Put a bonus out to your employees to refer candidates. Tell them you need 3 candidates by the end of the week. reach out to staffing firms. All right. Post jobs on local university alumni boards, your state society, pay for ads on LinkedIn and Indeed. Go ahead and sponsor those ads. You're going to pay for this no matter what. Let's just get it done the right way. And so that's the short-term plan to fill this job. And hopefully you filled the job. Now what I want to talk about, Rob, is how do I prevent this from being a crisis the next time?
We need some kind of strategic hiring plan here, don't we?
We need a strategic hiring plan. So take some more time and think about that org chart. All right. And those 3 lanes. I think, and I always encourage owners when they're doing this, just take the first hour of your day to work on your business. Okay. A coach of mine called it the golden hour. It's time when you work on advancing the business. This is when you're going to step into the visionary, the CEO role of an organizational chart and be that CEO and decide where we're going. So what is our staffing plan that is needed to support this business in 3 years? Where are there question marks in my organizational chart as it stands today? People that maybe can't do the work, or people that can't do the future work that we want to go and get. If you're growing, if you know you're growing at 10% a year, what kind of staff is required 3 years from now to be able to fulfill that staff? Then you add another layer onto it. If you've listened to us before, we talk about the different options around remote hiring. Are we capable of leaning into the opportunities of remote work for domestic hires full-time? Could we begin to investigate offshore options? Could we begin to investigate and look at freelance or project-based remote staffing that's domestic? And then how does all that lay into a 3-year hiring plan so that we can go and be proactive now and get hires? Lastly, can we build resources that send us candidates all year long so that when the next crisis comes, I've got a Rolodex of leads that I can call and reach out to?
I've even heard firms just bringing people in. They haven't necessarily got the work for them there and then, but they know it's coming and they're backing them up. They've got people in place. So it's a proactive way to do it, preemptive. Just talk us a little bit through the admin side of it, Jeff. You've got to free up some capacity to solve these problems. So buying back your time in a way.
So there's that's a perfect phrase, and it's the right answer. And I don't know if you've ever heard Dan Martell. Dan is a entrepreneur, CEO coach here in the United States. He's all over social media, has a podcast. So he coaches business owners on finding time to work on the business, to advance the business. He wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time. And I subscribe to Dan's philosophies about how to run a business, and I'm even a member of his coaching organization. So they're a coach to me. One of the essential roles he feels like we as business owners need to hire. I know we've been talking a lot about small business, small firm owners, but this applies to every leader, is to buy back some of your time. And the first hire you really want to make is an administrative assistant or an executive assistant. You can hire an EA, an executive assistant, remotely. You can hire one for 10 hours a week, 40 hours a week, whatever your demand has. But if you go back and track just your time over the past few weeks, or start tracking your time now, you will see that email, calendar, booking travel, administrative tasks are eating up 30% of your time, maybe more. How many emails do you get a day, Rob? So an EA knows what they're doing, and someone that you can hire can take that work off your plate, and you can set up really nice work rules and standard operating procedures. I'll give you a personal example. My EA, Haley, owns my email, right? She owns my calendar. So I don't put events on my calendar. I've set up an ideal week for myself, and there is time where I am heads down working on projects, and there is time where it's good to be in meetings. I have office hours set up for my team, and these blocks from about 1 to 4 every day. If Haley knows if Haley knows that this person is someone that I need to meet with, they're a priority client or a franchisee at my day job at Paget, she fills those slots. I'm showing up ready to do meetings between 1 and 4 every single day. So she owns my calendar. That probably saves 10% of my hours a week. It's just scheduling. She owns my email. So she filters my email and prioritizes for me what I need to respond to. But I also coach her to be able to respond to more and more of my emails through stand-ups that we have every week. So over about a year process, I've delegated email to her, and I'm comfortable with her responding because of a system that we set up, right? So that's giving me time back to focus on things like, what if I need to fill an open position? How do we grow our business? So like when we slow down and think about what we need in our org chart, you know, Dan says, I'm plagiarizing from Dan here. Um, I'm borrowing from Dan here that the first hire you really ought to be thinking about is a solid EA, even as few as 10 hours a week.
And Jeff, we're talking about owners. You're an entrepreneur. You're at the top of the org chart, if you like, but there'll be many accountants listening that don't have that freedom, that budget, but they can still, whether it's ChatGPT or just paying a few dollars an hour for some outsourced help, they could do things a lot smarter than they're doing. That's a given, isn't it?
The key move here is to start tracking what you do in 15-minute increments. Set up a spreadsheet, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. in 15-minute increments. And just for 2 weeks, put what you're doing in those slots, right? And then at the end of the 2-week stretch, take an hour and analyze what you're doing. And think strategically, what would it be worth to me if I could delegate these tasks that are, code them in red, let's say. What would my business look like if those tasks were owned by somebody else and I spent that time on improving my systems, improving our efficiencies, and going and getting new clients? My EA that I mentioned a second ago, she is with me for 10 hours a week. She's a fractional EA. She supports other clients. This is not an expensive thing. And yes, ChatGPT and other tools that can automate routine and repeatable tasks are freely available. But this is a chance to think strategically about your business and your time, because we are in a time-based business, are we not?
And yeah, we're thinking too about not just the owners at the top of the family, but the bosses, the managers that employ people. They've got to build teams. There might be a leader of that department, a head of function, head of a vertical, something like that. They've got to be thinking about hiring all the time.
They are the higher up you are in a large organizational chart, the more time must be spent on strategic work, project work, thinking work. And we've got to free a good chunk of our time to let us do that. If you find yourself in meetings all day long, and then when you're not in meetings, you're just responding to email, that's a good signal that you need some help. And I think there's a little bit of pride. Like I maybe I'm not worthy of having an assistant, and that's hogwash. The investment you make in an assistant will pay you back 10x in what you could accomplish if you're delegating those tasks. It's also easy. You also learn the art of delegation when you have someone who is solely there to do things for you, and they want to do it for you, so it's okay.
I'm thinking too, Jeff, that accountants are, well, they're charging out $100, $200, $500 an hour, whatever it is. So if they can't afford 5, 10, $20 an hour for an EA, an executive assistant for a few hours a week, then they're unlikely to think more strategically. So, okay, you're building out your ability to hire, and we're framing the remote options here, aren't we, Jeff? Because you're going to give us so much more than flexibility, because that's going to give us so much more flexibility in the labor market.
Well, this is the second part of, you've developed a strategic plan. What I hope you identify in the strategic plan is, we're going to hire remote staff. We're going to embrace this opportunity, not run away from it. And so we're going to hire remote. But maybe what you realize is that we're not set up for this, right? And so there's a couple more things that you want to start with just to be prepared to hire remote. And I can give you just 3 or 4 basic ideas here. Number 1, your software. So my technology needs to be connected somehow to the web so that other people that are not in my city can do work for me. If you are using a desktop software like QuickBooks Desktop or UltraTax There are services that will host those desktop applications for $30 to $50 per user and allow someone else to plug into your version of QuickBooks Desktop or UltraTax online. This is the first move we make. The second move we make is we invest in collaborative software that facilitates remote work. I'm talking about Microsoft Teams, or talking about Zoom, and or the Google suite of applications. So, well, this is just world of work. I can work on a spreadsheet in Microsoft Teams, and you in England can comment the next day on my assumptions that I make in the spreadsheet. So we have collaborative documents. Then, perfect segue, we want to buy a project management software. It can be accounting specific. Carbon, TaxDome are two. Canopy, there's probably 10 or 11. Jetpack Workflow. These are all tools that are set up for accounting firms specifically to do remote work collaboratively. Or there are non-accounting specific project management tools, Asana, Monday, Trello, which is my favorite. And all these are setting up to do is allowing for us to list our projects, list our tasks, list owners and deadlines, right? So now you, as the leader of a large organization or a small one, can see pace and completion of tasks, right? So these three things are low learning curve. You'll adapt to it very quickly. Now you've set yourself up to hire that first remote person. Once you're done with that, you want to just write down basic SOPs around tax, accounting, payroll, and a fourth about how we do things. Have a rule. If you say something twice, write it down. And so a basic company wiki, something that is on a Google Doc, or if you're on Teams, a shared document in their drive that is essentially how we do things at our business. Now you're in the game. This is about 10 hours of work, maybe 20, all in. Now you've set yourself up so that you can hire a remote person.
It's a game changer for accounting firms that are looking to fill out the capacity problems and serve their clients ultimately. And that's what it comes down to. And you've got to have that. I'm just thinking of the client, the candidate sources, Jeff, and where we go for these now. You're at Accounting Fly. You supply remote workers for accounting firms there in the US, and I'm sure you'll be going international soon. But we need to be tapping into that too. And it's not just Accounting Fly that's always on. What else should people be looking at?
The strategic move is, I want to prevent a crisis the next time somebody quits. So we want to develop inbound candidate flow. We don't need to hire somebody today. We just filled that position where the person left. But what I want to do is be in position to make it easier the next time and the next time and the next time. And as we grow, to fill out the remainder of my strategic plan. So let's create some sources that will feed us candidates that we can warm and nurture so that we have candidates in the hopper the next time. So yes, there's a few options. First, build a relationship with local headhunters. These are people that have built systems to fill roles that you do not have, and you pay them to go and find candidates. All right. That's especially if you want to hire locally, if you need to hire locally, but I'm hoping you'll embrace remote. Secondly, you mentioned Accounting Fly. So Accounting Fly has an emergency hire service where I've got to fill a role in a handful of days. But what you want to do with Accounting Fly is sign up for their always on service. It's a service where every week Accounting Fly sends accounting firms their favorite candidates in the market. And so you're getting a live look at who's in the market, what they're asking for pay, what their skills are. So it's not only market intelligence, we just send you candidates. This costs nothing. Essentially, we're just feeding you candidates so that you see who's out there. And if you see someone that looks interesting, you contact them and they connect you with the candidate. And you'll pay if you hire the person, but receiving the candidates every week is free. And you can get that at accountingfly.com. We talked last time about employee referrals. So we want to take the time to set up an employee referral program. Meet with your team and say, we're going to pay you if you hire somebody. These are our priorities. So share these job descriptions on social media, be reaching out to your friends. We always want to talk to candidates. And you want the team sharing about your firm on social media because every one of those team members on your team has lots of contacts. And we want those contacts to constantly see information about how you're hiring. Here's a trick that I think is great is evergreen job postings. Post the job that you think you'll probably hire in the future on the internet and just run it all year. Or run it from May to December. You'll probably get a few candidates out of the hundreds that will apply, but it's okay to say, "We're not ready to hire yet. Can we keep in touch with you when we have the opening?" And I know that you might have some question marks about that. Well, the job board is for open jobs. Well, not really. A job board is designed for you to use it how you want to. And if you put a job posting on, always hiring tax managers, and you can start to build relationships with people, when you need the hire, you've got a Rolodex people to hire. So build this list of candidates, put them in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet, and keep them warm by reaching out to them monthly, getting in front of candidates sending them a newsletter, adding them to your firm's newsletter list. Let's start to build a relationship with them, because if you have a relationship with them, the next time you have a crisis hire, it feels more like a puzzle and not an emergency.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the quote by Harvey Mackay, who wrote Swim with the Sharks. And he said, dig your well before you're thirsty. And this is what we're doing. This is great, Jeff. Any final tips for listeners, Jeff, to help us boss a situation where they're going to mitigate the risk of losing somebody they know is coming up?
Survey your existing team. Find out what their sore points are around working in your firm. Always, if you survey them and ask them about their work-life balance, about if they understand their job, if they have what they need to do their job, they will signal to you that there's a problem. And you might be able to prevent a problem with a key staff before they quit. And remember, we're going to spend our golden hour of the day improving the business. So whatever comes out of these surveys is going to teach you how we're going to keep staff. And why should you care about this? Because you don't want to be back in the crisis hiring mode again. That is the proven way to reduce employee turnover inside any size accounting organization.
Yes, we know it's coming. We know you're going to lose people. I'm mindful of the proverb, only an idiot makes the same mistake twice. So if you do get burnt and you do lose somebody and it's pants on fire, episode 1 will cover you back and getting through that next 30 days and getting that hiring in fast. But if it happens again, boy, you've got to take a long, hard look at yourself, because we're giving you a blueprint here to get ahead of the game and mitigating risk coming up with a more strategic recruitment system. Embracing remote. The answers are here, Jeff, right?
I always think about how important it is to work on important but not urgent work inside a business, to dig your well before you need it. And it's so hard to do. And I'm guilty of not doing it. And I preach it because there's so much inbound. But I had a coach, an E-Myth coach. Have you ever read E-Myth? And a facilitator. And so I hired a coach years ago when I was building Accounting Fly. And he taught me about the golden hour. It's like, turn your email off. Work on projects for the business, because if you won't, who will? And so, yes, it's slow progress, but it's progress. You look back every 90 days, if you're spending 90 hours on important but not urgent work, like building a predictable and repeatable hiring program, it solves future problems. It lightens your load. It keeps your team members longer. And you know what else it does? It increases the exit value of a business. A lot of firms that are listening to this are owned by one person or just a few people, and they want to retire and they want to build equity. You don't build equity by just responding to emails and responding to frustrated clients. You've got to move forward and just give yourself that hour to do that. And you'll be glad you did.
Amen, Jeff Phillips. Thanks again for your passion and your insights here on the Accounting Talent Podcast.